Hey everyone, it's episode 175 of the Diet Diaries. Thanks for being here. Thanks for taking time from your day to listen to this podcast. Um, I've been looking at my podcast data and being totally honest, like it's um shrinking a little bit. Which is fine. Like I will always show up and record this podcast, whether there's one person listening or 1,000 people listening. Um, and part of me is wondering, like, I feel like every day there's a new podcast out. It's just such an incredibly saturated market and there's so much to listen to. That sometimes I think it just could be just get to be like too much. Um, so if you're here and you're listening, thank you. I appreciate you so much. As I always say, whether it's your first episode, your fifth, your 10th, or you've listened to God bless you all 175. I can't believe that it's been that long. It'll be 4 years in November that I've been doing this podcast, which really kind of blows my mind. So anyway, enough about that. I've been kind of like talking about doing this episode for a really long time on social media. And what I'm going to talk about today is how I've changed my workouts over the last since like August and then going into September. What I've been doing, why I've been doing it, changes I've noticed, just to kind of share like sample size of what I've experienced I'm almost 44, approaching or already in perimenopause, um, and dealing with all of that and the role that exercise plays because it plays a big one, plays a much bigger role than you probably want to acknowledge or accept because it means that you have to do something about it, which takes work and it takes effort. Like, I'm not going to lie. So here's kind of like a little bit of my backstory. If you've been listening for a long time, you will know this. And if you haven't been listening for a long time, totally cool. I'm going to give you enough to go off of. So I have been walking for exercise for a very long time. At this point, probably like 6 to 7 plus years. Like walking almost every day outside. And walking probably for like 45 minutes to an hour, like a really good amount of time. And I'm like an audiobook person. I don't read very much with a book or a Kindle in my hand, but I listen to a lot of books and I love it and I look forward to it. I love walking. It feels amazing and it's doable. And um, I wasn't getting super sweaty. I didn't have to have special clothes. I could drop Ben off at school and then go for my walk. So that was a really big part of my routine Ben was in elementary school for 5 years, and I would basically drop him off at school and then go on my walk and then come back and start my work day. That changed a lot this year with him in middle school because we no longer walk to school. We have to drive to school. And so that changed a lot. And it kind of synced up with when I decided to make some changes or kind of recognize that I needed to make some changes. So, I've been walking and enjoying it and loving it. And it was fine and great. When my was it I am a huge advocate of walking, and I'm gonna talk about that. Walking is wonderful. No matter how much you kind of exercise or don't exercise, walking always counts as movement. What I will say, and this kind of starts to maybe jump ahead a little bit, but I won't go too far, is that the amazing thing about human bodies is they adapt and they respond to the things that we do or don't do. And my body was adapting to all of the walking that I was doing. And I say that because the length, I was walking for like a long time, 45 minutes to an hour, 5, 6 days a week is a lot, right? It's a lot of time. But the intensity of the walking during that time was low. Um, I was walking at like a good clip, but not walking like super fast and pretty much on flat ground. And it is harder to get the intensity up on flat ground, especially if you're not really paying attention to how fast you're walking, which when you're listening to an audiobook and you're looking at like all the things around you and enjoying being outside, which I was, it's very easy. Your body's going to kind of settle into like your natural cadence. Some people are naturally fast walkers. One of my closest friends is like the fastest walker I've ever met. And I know when she and I go on a walk together, it is going to be a workout. That's not it's like her natural cadence. It's just how she walks. It's like a thing. Most people don't walk that fast. And so if you're not explicitly and purposefully paying attention to how fast you're walking, you're gonna settle into, like, your natural cadence. And so what had happened is I was walking, and I would probably settle into somewhere between, like, an 18 plus, 19 plus minute mile, which is not, like, fast. For one person, it might be fast. For me, it wasn't. And I've been doing this for years, with no other really h not gonna say no other, with not a lot of other higher intensity exercise missed in, right? I would go to a dance class once a week, and I kind of go as much as I love dance, I do go through phases with it, in terms of when I go really consistently or I don't go as consistently. Strength training is in and out, and, once in a blue moon, I'd get the urge to, like, go for a run, which was, like, literally, like, I could count on one hand the number of times a year that would happen. Um, so I was really there was no intensity. There was not, like, really anything challenging about these workouts. I would go and I would do them, and the movement was wonderful, and I would get, like, these pretty big steps. I mean, I would easily get over 10,000, 12,000 steps a day, no problem. Between doing that walk and then walking to pick Ben up at school and just steps throughout the day, like, no problem. And I was starting to notice over time, so this is, like, right, we're mid-April right now, going back over a year ago, changes in my body, right? My belly, I carry my weight in my belly. You guys know this. And again, if you don't, now you do. That is part of having PCOS. And it's also just genetically like how my body is. It had been this way since I was a teenager. I was starting to carry more weight in my belly. And some of my clothes were feeling tight in the waist. And I hadn't really changed. I had not changed how I was eating. And I'm like, "What? Like, this is frustrating. What's going on?" And this was around the time that I went to see the functional medicine doctor. And at one point, there was some stuff with my thyroid. The levels had gone off, and we readjusted, and and then it helped, but then things kind of reverted back. And I'm like, "What's going on here?" So, and I was just feeling like not great in my body, right? I mean, you guys know who are listening. A lot of you who are listening are in perimenopause, menopause, or have gone through it, and you know what happens. Like, changes happen in your body. You don't know where it's coming from. You don't know why it happened, and you feel out of control. It's like, and you don't know what you did or what to do, and it's really frustrating. And like, that's how I was feeling. So I have been consistently inconsistent with strength training over the years. And what I mean by that is I will strength train for like 4 to 5, maybe 6 months, and then stop for 4 to 5 to 6 months. And then pick up a new program 4 to 5 to 6 months and then stop, right? Consistently inconsistent. And that's like it's not that it's not bad, but I know partially because of the field that I work in, my time working, teaching strength and movement. Very good friends of mine who are like experts in this space. One of my closest friends is one of the smartest, most educated people I know in this space. I'm going to talk about her because she's the one who programs for me. And I know that strength training is really fucking important. And if you are listening, it is really fucking important for you too. And I will tell you, in no uncertain terms, it is something that you have to be doing. And I know you don't wanna hear that, and I know it's like, "Well, why do I have to do it?" Or, "You don't have to do anything." If you care about your health, if you are struggling with weight gain in places you're like, "What the fuck is happening right now?" If you want to, prevent or mitigate osteoporosis, if you wanna be able to get up and down off the floor as you age, if you wanna maximize your quality of life as you age, if you wanna have the freedom and the confidence to be able to move and do whatever you want, right, as you age over the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 plus years, you need to be strength training. You need to be picking up a weight that feels heavy for you. And so around all the time that this was happening, had not been regularly strength training for a while, and I'm like, "Okay, I need to do something about this." So I reached out to my friend Gina, who I just mentioned before. I'm gonna tag her because, yes, she's a good friend, but she is also fucking brilliant. And I asked her to program for me, and it was very specific. I was working out at home, and I wanted the workouts to be really only around a half an hour. Because I have done programs where it's like 45 minutes to an hour, and I have to be in a commercial gym to have a barbell, and that's what ultimately would lead me to being that consistently inconsistent. It's like I couldn't stick with it. So I got real honest with myself. I know I need to be able to do this at home, and I need this to be a length of time that feels really doable. And so she created a program for me. It was 3 days a week, and the workouts are between 30 and 35 minutes, and they can be done either at a commercial gym or at home. She always has, like, variations of exercises, and this was early August, so I don't know how many months ago was that? 8, 9 months ago? I don't even know. And I started doing it. And I have been consistent, right? Have there been weeks where I haven't worked out at all? Yes, of course. I've been sick, we've gone away. Have there been weeks where I've only done 1 or 2 workouts? Yep. Have there been weeks where I've done all 3? Yep. Right? But I have showed up, and if I have missed a week or 10 days or even 2 weeks, I have kept going. I haven't, like, thrown up my hands and said, "Oh, here we go again. Like, look what I did. I stopped again. Like, have to start over, have to find a new program. This isn't working." No, this is working. I have to make the effort and the commitment to show up because it's in alignment with how I wanna take care of myself. And I really got honest and realized that strength training is really fucking important, and if I wanna take care of my body and feel good in my body, I have to be doing this. Whether or not I get excited about it, whether or not I love it, whether or not I look forward to it, there are certain things that we have to get honest about doing and taking care of ourselves, and I firmly believe that strength training is one of them. Eating protein is another one, and they go hand in hand. I will tell you that if you are strength training, you need to be eating protein. That's where the strength and the muscle is going to come from. Not eating enough protein, you're going to diminish the impacts of your strength training. So I started doing these workouts, and we have a decent variety of dumbbells, but nothing crazy. I will tell you what we have. We have 5s, 10s, 15s, 18s, 20s, 25s, 30s, 40s, and 55s. I know that sounds like a lot while I'm rattling it off, but most people probably already have 4 to 5 of those sets. You probably already have some of that. And we added over time, right? We didn't have the 40s for a long time. I bought those probably halfway through, meaning so like, 4 or 5 months ago, I added those because I felt like I needed them. And I have a bench, which was not that expensive, and I have, like, some bands and stuff, which I don't really use that often. And so if you think about if you pay to go to a gym and you never go, if you were to add up that money, you could easily add a couple of sets of dumbbells to your collection and have enough. I don't have a barbell. I don't have any cable machines. Like, I have dumbbells. That's it. I have a couple of small kettlebells. I really don't use them that often, um, because I use the dumbbells. That's what I have, and I make it work. And you can make it work. And I like doing it at home because it's very easy for me to go downstairs, do it in the basement, come back up, shower, get dressed. I don't have to drive to the gym and come back, and it's like this whole thing. I know some people prefer to leave the house because it's like, I'm leaving the house, I'm going to work out, I'm doing my thing. I get it. You have to get honest about what works for you. How consistent are you being? And are you doing it or are you not doing it? And why is that? I really realize that I don't want to have to leave the house to strength train. I have to be able to do it at home, and I have to be able to do it in about half an hour. So she programmed for me accordingly, and I just started doing it, and I have kept doing it. Now, what I love about this is, and this is not like it's in an app. So the workouts are in an app, and I can track them and I can schedule them and all of that. So there is like some accountability because I know she's kind of like checking in and looking to see if I did it. But I can track and I can see my progress, and it I don't have to write anything down. It like does it for me. It tells me like, oh, 3 months ago you did this exercise at this weight. So it kind of gives me an idea of like, if I'm doing that exercise and it's been 3 months, what weight I might want to pick up to use it. So I started doing that, and I was consistent with it. And I was feeling good, right? Feeling strong. I some days I really look forward to strength training and some days I don't. And there are some exercises that I love, and I will be honest, there are some exercises that I hate. What I will say is that the feeling of picking up a heavy for you weight, which is different for everyone, is a feeling of vitality and aliveness, which is like another word for vitality, and confidence and capability that is really unmatched by anything else. Um, so yes, there's of course all the physical benefits, but there are a lot of emotional and mental benefits to it as well. Um, Especially as we age, there's all these things. Don't do that. You're gonna get hurt. Don't do that. You're gonna throw your back out. Don't do that. Don't do that. You might hurt your hip. You might do this. The reason that all those things happen is because you're not strong. It's because you're not strength trained. So it's like then you get stuck. You get like one thing begets another, and it's like because out of fear of hurting yourself, you then don't do these things, but then you're more likely to hurt yourself. This is like the truth of it. Um, and strength training with a very structured program like this is very different than going to like a boot camp class, uh, of which there are many in the town that I live. I'm calling them boot camp classes. You can call them whatever you want. That's what they are. Um, there's a lot of community with those. People like going to them. They are very high intensity. Multiple days a week is a lot for your nervous system, really more than your body needs. We need some intensity, not too much, not too little, Goldilocks. And it does not kind of progress your strength in the same way that a very kind of specific, um, strategic strength program does, which is what Gina does, created for me. And I'm this is not like I'm in like a group. I don't really like connect with the group, but she does this. There's like, I don't know, 10 or 15 women, and we all get the same program and like we modify as needed. It's not personalized to me. She does do that, but like I didn't really need that. I was like, I can do what the, whatever's happening for the group. But the way that she programs it over the course of the month, the way she's programming the sets and the reps and the weights is very thoughtful and very strategic and very informed by what the research says about how our bodies adapt, how we build muscle, how this impacts our metabolism, and how this all plays into peri and menopause. So this isn't just like going and doing like a random workout. Again, I'm not saying that that's bad, but I'm saying like if you're doing that and you're not getting the results you want, or the thought of doing that makes you want to like, bleh, which it does for me, there's another way to approach it. Um, so I was doing this, I was feeling good. Physically, like I wasn't really feeling any changes like in my body in terms of like pants. And I wasn't expecting that, right? Like typically body composition changes are driven by nutrition. Now, what I will say is that my nutrition was basically on point. There was really no wiggle room for me. And I had no interest in like, working on fat loss from a nutrition standpoint. I was happy with what I was eating. I was eating a lot of protein. Everything around like my relationship with like sweets was like in check, feeling good, making good choices. And my body was just responding to all that in like a slightly different way than it had before. So we had a conversation, remember, I think it was like maybe a month or two into it. Gina and I were talking, and we were talking about the walking, and that maybe my body had adapted to all of the walking. That the lack of intensity and just kind of like these, pretty, what we can call them zone one in terms of heart rate, which is just basically like where you spend your whole life living. I was walking, but my heart rate was not really getting elevated, a little bit, but not to like, not high enough, that my body had just adapted to this. And especially over that past year had really adapted, and it caused a little bit of weight gain and a little bit of shift. And this could all be connected to perimenopause, and or it could also just be the way my body was adapting. So we're like, okay, let's start putting in some zone 2 cardio. And zone 2 cardio refers to your heart rate zone. And if you want to figure that out, 220 minus your age times 0.65, that's going to give you your heart rate. And then it's like a range, a little bit below, a little bit above, somewhere in that range is your zone 2. It is a totally doable. It is not intense. It's you can talk through it. So when I do my walks on the Peloton tread, that's what I'm doing is zone 2 cardio. I listen to a book. I have my Apple Watch that does track it for me. Um, it's helpful, right? You could use a heart rate monitor. You could use nothing and just gauge by like your level of effort. You should be able to talk. You're not dying. You're not out of breath. You can do this for 30 to 45 minutes. Like, I'm not going to say no problem because if it's brand new to you, it might feel somewhat challenging, but this is not a boot camp workout. This is not a sprint. This is not a run. This is like a walk at a good pace, probably with some elevation to it. And I started doing that several times a week. And we also added in a HIIT work, high intensity interval training. Now, Gina is very specific about HIIT workouts, and she does true HIIT workouts. Most of this, a HIIT workout is not 45 minutes. It's not even necessarily half an hour. It is intervals of very high intensity work followed by an interval of rest. And these intervals of high intensity work are no more than a couple of minutes, followed by a couple of minutes of rest. But usually they're shorter than that. Usually it's like 60 seconds of work, 60 seconds of rest, 90 seconds of work, 90 seconds of rest, something like that. For 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes would be like really on the upper end. I started doing those once a week. They were hard. They were very hard. Did I love them? No, because in order to that for that high intensity work, I did. I still do, run on the treadmill. You can also walk at a very high incline. I did that for a while. I had something going on with my foot. I couldn't run, so I walked on a high incline. That got my heart rate up high enough for it. You are in like a high zone. This is going to feel hard. You're going to feel out of breath. You are going to be like, when is this going to be over? That is how you are going to feel. That's how you need to feel. But it's only for 1 minute, 90 seconds at a time, and for 10, 15, max 20 minutes once a week, right? It's not a lot. And you look at the whole picture of your week. And after a couple of months of doing that, this adding in the zone 2 cardio, adding in one hit workout a week, yes, in addition to the strength training, I started to feel a difference in my clothes. I have not gotten on the scale. Our scale, the battery is broken. I haven't replaced it. So I have not stepped on a scale in a very long time. But my clothes started to feel different. Where it had been tight in the belly, now felt comfortable again. And that has remained the same. Have my clothes gotten like big on me? No. Have I lost like 10 pounds? No. Has there been a shift? Has there been some reduction in body fat to the point where like my clothes are comfortable? Yes. And I say this because I'm not like, for me to lose 10 pounds, like would have to make so many changes to my nutrition. I have no interest in that. I don't need to do that. I don't care. It really means nothing for me. But we all want to feel comfortable in the clothes that are hanging in our closet, right? We all do. Um, and I was getting to the point that my clothes were wearable. It wasn't that I was like, oh my God, these are way too tight. It was just I could feel a difference. And some things were uncomfortable. And there were some things I was avoiding wearing. Some things have like more flexibility than others, like everyone knows kind of how to manage their closet in that way. And I wanted everything to be comfortable. I wanted things to just pull right on and zip and button up and where I'm not thinking about it over the course of the day. And it was this change in my exercise that got me there. Now, again, I will say that my nutrition was already there. I was already eating, over 100 grams of protein a day, already eating a lot of veggies. You guys know that I rarely drink alcohol. Incorporating sweets in a very thoughtful, intentional way. Not to say there weren't days where I had like not a lot of protein or overate or had like a bunch of cake. Of course, I'm a human. We all have those days. But overall, big picture, my nutrition was really in place. And I'm not saying that this is like the thing that is going to like quote work for you. But what I will tell you is that nutrition plays a huge role. So if your nutrition is not there, that has to be addressed, right? Like, you can't not be eating enough protein and, be overeating sweets frequently and overeating carbs and having a really shitty relationship with food and try to do this and expect changes, like, it's not gonna happen. Um, but for me, because all of that was in place, this has made a really big difference, and again, I'm not sitting here telling you that, like, I'm, like, wearing smaller sized clothes. I'm not. Like, you would never look at me and be like, "Oh, she looks different." Like, my body looks the same. Um, but I can feel a difference, right? I can feel a difference, like, in my body when I move and I exist in my body, right? We all know how that feels when we've, like, gained weight in certain areas, it just feels different, and I can tell, obviously, by how my clothes fit. Um and so that is a direct it's not a coincidence like that. My body had adapted to that walking style. Walking was just like wasn't doing anything for me anymore. Like our bodies adapt. And that's what's so amazing about them is that this why I hate the analogy, oh, like your body's not a machine. It's not a machine. It adapts and responds. That's how we heal, right? That's like that's how neuroplasticity, that's like the amazing wondrousness of being a human being. And so my body had adapted to all that walking and I needed something more, right? It makes sense. My body had adapted. And so I was like gaining a little bit of fat or things were like shifting in terms of where my body was storing that fat. I needed to increase the intensity. And as a result of doing that, I felt some physical changes. And again, I did that, the zone 2 cardio, because I was elevating my heart rate now several times a week, whereas when I was doing the walks outside, my heart rate was not getting elevated and I added in the high intensity interval training once a week, and I was consistently strength training, right? So that is a huge part of it too. That takes a long time to build up as you build muscle and you're consistent with it, right? It's all of it working together. Um, so and there's a lot of science out there, and Gina is the expert on this, so I'm not gonna talk about it. You can follow her and, learn from her because she's an incredible wealth of information. There's a lot of science out there that says that this is important for all women, but as you get into perimenopause, including more intense exercise is very important. And if you are gaining weight, if body fat is relocating and moving around as it does, that's normal. The drop in estrogen creates a prime environment for abdominal fat. That is actually a normal part of the process. We just don't know how to mentally deal with it. That's a separate episode because that is part of this too. This isn't about like fixing things. This isn't about getting rid of belly fat. This is about feeling good in your body and exercising and taking care of yourself because all the systemic benefits of that, both physical and mental. And then alongside that, also working to accept that like these are natural biological changes. Just like when you go through puberty and you go through not having boobs to having boobs, right? And your body like gets a different shape, right? Like maybe like more of those curves than when you're like a little girl and you're like stick straight. This is the same thing. It's a shift. It's like puberty in reverse, and there's a lot of mental stuff that's wrapped up in that, but it is a normal part of the biological aging process. We've just been told that it's a huge problem, that it needs to be fixed, that it's not okay. You never tell a girl going through puberty that getting boobs isn't okay, right? Like, no, it's glorified. But except to women on the other side, it's like, oh my God, no, this is terrible. This can't happen. And also we want our clothes to fit, right? There's a both and here. I'm not like you guys know I really try to like straddle that and acknowledge the realities of dealing with this and taking care of ourselves and the mental piece. So I kind of like went off on a bit of a tangent there. What I want you to understand is that you need to be moving your body, and you need to be moving your body in such a way that it feels somewhat challenging. You need to elevate your heart rates. I'm not gonna say you need to sweat because everyone sweats different. If you're doing a high intensity workout, you're gonna sweat, right? Like, so for that, like once a week, yes, let's try to sweat. Um, if you never feel challenged in your workout, if it never feels hard, if you never say to yourself, "Oh my God, like how many more do I have?" You're not working hard enough. It shouldn't feel totally easy. It shouldn't feel, and I'm using the word should, but whatever. It shouldn't feel like, oh, I'm breezing through this. Then it's not challenging enough and it's not doing for you what you think it's doing for you and what you want it to do for you. Intensity matters and we need to use it accordingly. You don't need to do super intense workouts 5 days a week. Not at all. Zone 2 walks are like, boom, get on the treadmill, listen to my book, I'm walking. I can breathe in and out through my nose. My heart rate's elevated, but it's not super intense. Like, I never dread those. I actually look forward to those. The strength training needs to feel challenging. Am I dying? Nope. They're a half hour, 35 minutes, right? So that helps modulate the intensity. And also, like, heavy is relative. What's heavy for me may or may not be heavy for you. So I'm not going to give you like weights you need to be using. That's something that you have to figure out. Like, if you decide to do this, needs to feel hard, doesn't need to feel impossible. You don't need to feel like you're dying. You don't need to feel like you're killing yourself. You don't need to be like, oh my God, this fucking sucks. I hate it. You might not love it. You don't need to love it. You need to do it anyway, right? That's part of this too, is accepting that you don't have to love every single thing about this. Part of being a human, we don't get to love everything we do. That's like a fantasy land. That is not part of being human. It's not always about being happy. This is like goes back to the thing of like I've talked about in my emails, like this concept of wholeness. It's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to work hard. It's okay to feel intensity. It's okay to feel like, when is this over? That's okay. That's part of being human. You need to feel that. If you're not feeling that in your workouts, you're not doing enough. And again, you don't need to do that every day, once or twice a week. So I'm not here to like write you a workout program. I'm just trying to give you some insight for as a way for you to check in with yourself and be like, okay, where am I at? Like, am I feeling that? Am I not feeling that? Am I doing too much? Am I trying to like kill myself 5 days a week at the gym? Am I like walking out of every workout being like, oh my God, I'm so glad that's over? No, doesn't need to be that hard. You need to find that sweet spot. And if you have been struggling in your body with body image, with perimenopause or menopause, physical changes, emotional changes. If you are struggling, I mean, and then put perimenopause aside, if you're struggling with weight changes or gain in general, this matters. And this is not about, I want to be really clear, like, this is not about, I ate this, so now I'm going to do this workout to burn it off. That is a mental relationship that we create. What I will say is that it is a scientific fact that our bodies adapt to what we do, what we don't do, right? I was not doing enough exercise, enough of the right type of exercise. I was walking a lot, right? This goes to show it's not about necessarily the number. I was walking, I had 12,000 steps a day, 45-minute walks 5 days a week, and I was gaining weight, right? So more is not better. It's about the quality and the nature of the work. And what I will say is that changing the type of exercise I have done and being very strategic and thoughtful about it then changes how my body responds to the food that I eat. Now, that is not a one-to-one relationship. And what I mean by that is not like oh, I had 3 slices of pizza and ice cream last night, so tomorrow I'm going to do a longer workout. No, that is just calling a spade, a disordered relationship with food and with exercise, which I lived with for years, decades. Changing the way that you work out in terms of being very thoughtful about the way you're using intensity and frequency and the type of exercise then impacts systemically your entire body. Is it going to impact your metabolism? Yes. Is that going to impact how your body responds to food? Yes. Is that going to maybe give you more flexibility with food? Maybe. Yes. I want to be very clear. That is not the same thing as that one-to-one relationship where I have to either preempt a big dinner with a workout or I react to a big dinner with a workout. That is entirely different. It doesn't work that way. A calorie burn that you see on a treadmill is not like, that's whatever. It doesn't mean anything. Just like the calories on your Apple Watch, that means shit. That it's like those are usually 30 to 40% off in terms of like the accuracy of the data. You can't calculate that stuff. You cannot rely on that. So that's why, like, the one-to-one relationship of, oh, I ate ice cream, I need to do extra time on the treadmill. It doesn't work that way. Your body is actually way smarter than this. But when you are big picture strength training and using intensity appropriately with your workouts, your body adapts to that in a certain way. And that can impact how your body kind of processes, metabolizes, uses food essentially. So I hope it's clear. This episode is getting long today, but that's okay. I knew it was going to be a longer one. I'm hoping that that makes sense and that you see a distinction between those relationships. And to be honest, like, I was hesitant to bring that up because I know so many of us have struggled in the past with that. I'm calling it that one-to-one relationship. Eat more, work out more, kind of on like a very micro basis, meaning within the same day or within like a week or whatever. And this is not that. This is very different. And this is really understanding the science of how our metabolisms work and how our bodies adapt and change and how we build muscle and the role that that muscle plays, and then how that cascades through our entire endocrine system in terms of hormones and estrogen. It's very, very complex. I am not even going to sit here and attempt to explain it because I can't. And I don't need to, right? You don't need to know all that in order to work on this. So I think, oh my God, there's like one of these thumbs up. I don't know what this is. I think that's it. I just want to reinforce the idea of consistency, that getting uncomfortable and doing hard stuff is necessary. That starts somewhere. If you're not strength training at all, strength train once a week for 20 minutes, right? I'm not out here doing like these crazy programs. I'm doing this at home in my basement for 30 to 35 minutes. Yes, I have a treadmill. That is a wonderful resource. It's been a wonderful resource. You don't have to have a treadmill. If you have a bike or a rower, or if you can get outside, or you can do jumping jacks, there are a lot of ways to get your heart rate up. And if you need structure, reach out to someone. Gina's awesome. If you want virtual support, if you want in person, find someone in your community. But please know that strength training And exercise and movement is a very, very important part of your health care. And it is up to you to take action on that. Nobody can do that for you. And it's going to be hard and it's going to be uncomfortable and it's going to take effort. Yes. And it will be so worth it because you are literally improving the quality of your current and future life. And you will never regret it. It will be one of the best things you've ever done for yourself. So I'm going to leave you with that. Thank you for listening. And of course, I will be back next week.